Hey everyone, thanks for jumping back into the cryptoverse. Today we're going to be talking about Ethereum. We're going to be looking at its ratio with respect to Bitcoin and some of the macro level patterns that we've talked about before, but we're just going to be giving an update. So if you guys like this information, if you like the content, please subscribe to the channel. Click the bell notification, the bell icon, turn notifications on, and join this Telegram channel here in the bottom right hand corner if you want to discuss these charts. So let's go ahead and jump in. So just to start off with, I wanted to show the linear regression equation just because a lot of people tend to like this. I have spoken a lot about this equation, or the idea of fitting to non-bubble data. I also mentioned that because Ether is only about half a decade old. It's the equation that I'm using isn't as I'm not as confident in it as I would be, say, for Bitcoin, because it's got about 10 to 11 years of data. But regardless, we can still try to fit data from the last market cycle, and run with it for until there's a reason to think we're going to deviate significantly from it. So essentially, we just add this tolerance band and just note that this, historically speaking, is more or less the time to be buying. This is not financial advice. This is just the regression equation that I use to help identify good buy points, good buy regions. But what I wanted to talk about here again was this idea of these sub cycles that Ether takes on, and primarily with respect to Bitcoin. So clearly we know that Ethereum was probably the best in terms of ROI, one of the best assets, if not the best, of the last market cycle. And so, obviously, it has a lot of interest behind it. It has more developers working on it than any other project. So the utility for Ethereum is definitely there in terms of decentralized finance, and even other coins building their other tokens, ERC20 tokens, building on top of the Ethereum blockchain. But let's break this down. So what we're going to do here, is just remind people about what causes Ether to pump. Like, where does it come from? Is it just random? Do you just throw your money and then wait for 4 years and hope to hit it? That's fine. But what causes it to pump, and can you anticipate this move? We don't have a ton of data to go on, but what we can at least do is look at the data that we have. So I'll just remind you, cycle 1 here is the sub-cycle from when Ethereum was first hit the markets, and this spike here corresponds to Ethereum it corresponds to Bitcoin getting above the 20-week moving average and holding it as support. And then the red line is referring to when Bitcoin got above its previous all-time high of around $1,100 from the prior cycle, and this also caused a move of Ether with respect to Bitcoin. So obviously, it also moved with respect to fiat, but this is with respect to Bitcoin that we're showing. So you can see, two moves that Ether took with respect to Bitcoin. Both of them were more or less of the same magnitude. One being when Bitcoin got above the 20-week and was confirming the bull run was starting, and then the other being when it got to its previous all-time high. Now, if we put on here, so we're basically moving from these two subcycles to a new cycle. So the red and the blue are part of the 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018 market. Okay. The green line is basically starting from when Ether was at its low at the pits of the bear market back in December of 2018. And you can see that we've been chugging along here for quite a while. Not really a whole lot has happened with Ether with respect to Bitcoin in terms of the ROI. And it's not actually that surprising, because the two catalysts that occurred during the last cycle have not happened yet during this cycle. So both of these moves that were the catalyst, I think, for these spikes have not happened. And we're looking for that to happen before we would even expect to see something like this occur. Earlier, we talked about this a few months ago. We saw this back in December. We made a video saying that Ether with respect to Bitcoin was undervalued. We knew that. We also noted that in the first quarter of every year, Ether tends to see a move. So we projected that in the first quarter that Ether would gain on Bitcoin, and it did. Um, it retraced some, but it didn't retrace as much. It didn't retrace back down to where it was back in December. So it had gained some value. So what we're waiting for now is for the party to begin, so to speak. We're waiting for Bitcoin to get above the 20-week moving average so that confidence can return to the rest of the market. So until that happens, I think Ethereum, the price of Ethereum is more or less going to not really fluctuate that much with respect to Bitcoin. I mean, sure, you're going to see small fluctuations that are down here, but these are pretty much dwarfed by what we saw in the last market cycle and what we might expect in the next one. So I wanted to remind you of one of these these patterns that we've pointed out in the video in the past. And after this, we're going to actually go do some trading view charts. So don't go anywhere. I know a lot of people appreciate using looking at this stuff on trading view, so I'm going to try to show you more. But just remember, this is when Ethereum first launched. We kind of had this last move here before ultimately capitulating down. Okay, this was our buy region. We came up, we had our first peak, second peak. Okay, then we kind of had our last run, our last gas, if you will, before capitulation again. So these yellow points kind of correspond to these buy region here. So buy, 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 buy. And then the buy regions are over here as well. So again, our last gas, buy region, first peak, second peak, last gas, buy region, first peak, second peak, last gas, buy region. Okay, we're setting up for another move. Now, back in December, we thought, we said, okay, well, if it seems like we're about to go above the 20-week moving average, it seems Bitcoin is, there's a move likely coming, and it did come. It was not clearly what we were hoping for at the time. I mean, obviously we wanted it to go much higher, but the reason why it didn't, as far as I'm concerned, is because Bitcoin failed to hold the 20-week moving average, and when it failed to hold it, it dropped like a rock down to the 200-week moving average, which is also what it did in the last cycle. If you're not familiar with that, back in 2015, when it failed to hold the 20-week moving average, it did drop to the 200-week at some point. And ultimately, it was after that, when Bitcoin got back up above the 20-week here, that then Ethereum, just started pumping through the roof. So ultimately, what we're looking for is we're looking for the price of Bitcoin to get above the 20-week moving average so we can really start moving. You can see there was a somewhat similar move back in 2017, but this was when Bitcoin was getting to its previous all-time high, but we kind of had our kind of a pump here, and then it retraced some, and then a larger move. Let's go ahead and jump to the trading view charts. I just want to remind you to join the Telegram channel if you haven't yet. Subscribe here, and if you want to join for some premium content, I do put out a weekly newsletter. I just put out a video for patrons only that go through a lot of dollar cost average buying and selling dynamically, a lot of different ideas, and a lot of risk metric updates as well as other things. So if you wanna join that community, we have a private Telegram group. Just check that out. But in the meantime, let's look here at the trading view charts, because this is what a lot of people want to see. So I just want to remind you. I want to show you, how you can easily look at this without having to make your own chart. So here we have the Ethereum Bitcoin ratio. So look back at 2016. You can see we pumped here, and it pumped by a fairly significant percentage. Basically all the way from down here to the peak. It was around a 1,700% gain. Now, what was happening during this time? And we've already mentioned it, but I just want to show you so that don't take my word for it. Don't trust, verify, right? Starting in January, you can see Ether with respect to Bitcoin started pumping. This was back in 2016. If we go to the chart, this is 2016. So back in October of 2015, Bitcoin got above the 20-week moving average. And then starting at the beginning of the year of 2016, this is when Ethereum, or when Bitcoin was holding the 20-week moving average as support. And the reason why I think this is important is because this is the same moving average it held as support for the entire bull run. So going back to Ethereum, You can see that starting in January, this is when it started moving, and then it peaked out in March. Okay, so this was quite a move over a couple month time period. So this is the move we're looking for. Now we also, if you follow this channel, we talk about diminishing returns, we talk about lengthening cycles. We would expect the move to not be as substantial. You know, this move here was fairly impressive, but the reason why it was basically stopped dead in its tracks again was because Bitcoin failed to hold the 20-week moving average as support. And you can see that here. So on March of 2020, March 2nd of 2020, that week anyways, this is when the price of Ether with respect to Bitcoin started falling significantly. It's because Bitcoin dropped below the 20-week. And when Bitcoin drops below the 20-week, basically the rest of the market, it does really poorly. Now, I'm sure there's always going to be some coins you can point to, but it's a fool's game, in my opinion, to try to go, altcoin hunting. And I'm not calling Ether not coin. It's a fool, in my opinion, to go altcoin hunting for a lot of different coins, to just try to find the one that may outperform Bitcoin when it's below the 20-week moving average. So what you can note again is that when Bitcoin was above the 20-week, this was when we started seeing this move. And this move, looks pretty similar to these moves over here. It started going up fairly quickly. But again, it was stopped dead in its tracks because Bitcoin said, you know what, we're going to kick the can down the road. We're not confirming the bull market yet, and we're going to revisit it in a few months. So this is what happened, okay? And then here, you can see a second move occur when Bitcoin got to its previous all-time high. So let's look to see when that happened, just to remind you. So this was, let me go ahead and auto this out. So our previous all-time high at around $1,100. So if we just look at our all-time high, and then scroll all the way over, you can see that this happened. We reached it in the first quarter of 2017. Now going again back to the first quarter of 2017, this is when Ethereum started pumping again. So it was when Bitcoin got back to this level. Now, I know many of you guys have watched these videos and you know this information, but the reason we're talking about this is because Bitcoin right now is knocking on the door of the 20-week moving average, okay? So if it gets above the 20-week moving average, if you start to see weekly candles closing above this, then I would expect Ethereum to continue to gain on Bitcoin. We have already established that it's already been gaining. Even though we saw this retracement, it was still higher than what it was earlier in the year. And it's already started gaining in the current run as well. But if Bitcoin gets above the 20-week moving average, which is very close to, by the way, it's only about $20 or $30 away at the time of this video, because you can see the price is $77.93, and the 20-week moving average is around $78.50 or so. So this is obviously a key point to be looking out for. If we can get above the 20-week moving average on Bitcoin, then watch out for Ethereum to make a move. And the reason why I'm saying this is because I just want to provide you guys with the information so that you know that historically speaking, Ethereum does make a nice move when this happens. And it has for years and years and years. Clearly, we're not even close to getting to the move that we might expect when Bitcoin gets to its previous all-time high. And I think one of the reasons, a lot of that move there's a couple of reasons. Is because, first of all, if Bitcoin does get to $20,000, it probably will form some level of resistance, at least for, a little while, and people might pull their money out and put it into another coin. Another thing that I think is somewhat psychological, people think, if Bitcoin is back at $20,000, and then you look at the rest of the cryptocurrency market, namely Ethereum, and if, say, Ethereum at the time is only at maybe, let's say, $400 or something, then a lot of people are going to look and say, okay, well, back in 2017, 2018, when Bitcoin was at these prices, Ethereum was at $1,400, and then you start to get this feeling of, okay, well, maybe it's undervalued. And then it's going to be a domino effect of, okay, well, it's undervalued. We have decentralized finance. It's basically one of the biggest utilities of cryptocurrency out there, that even, someone who's not even involved in cryptocurrency can at least appreciate the idea of a smart contract that you don't have to rely on a third party. That's a pretty big use case. And then you also, in the last market cycle, it was obviously the flood of ERC20s and ICOs. But ultimately, people are gonna, as the market matures, I think a lot of these things are gonna be a thing of the past as people become less skeptical. And at the end of the day, only a small number of coins are gonna win out. We're not gonna have a future where you're gonna have 100,000 coins in circulation that the vast majority of people are going to use. I mean, obviously, any person can go create 100 ERC20 tokens a day if they want to, but doesn't mean anyone's going to use them. But there are, of course, some that are actually, there are some ERC20s out there that actually do seem to have merit and utility in them in and of themselves. So, Ethereum is definitely, as far as I'm concerned, the two primary coins to hold are Bitcoin and Ethereum. If you don't hold those, if you're not in the cryptocurrency market and you're not, and you're looking to get in, what I tell people anyways is, well, for me, getting exposure into Bitcoin and Ethereum is priority, and anything past that is kind of just icing on the cake. But at the end of the day, Ethereum, I think, has a very bright future. So what are we looking for again? We're looking for Bitcoin to get above the 20-week. We're going to be keeping a close eye on it. If it does, then we could we might start moving relatively quickly. So I want people to be aware of that. Now, if we get rejected, which there's obviously always a chance that this happens, maybe we get rejected and we come back down to the 100-week moving average. Maybe we come all the way back down to the 200-week moving average. But if we get rejected, expect for this to get, stopped dead in its tracks again, and maybe for it to come back down some. And obviously we know it'll come back down with respect to fiat, because if Bitcoin's dropping, most everything else is. But this is the Ether Bitcoin ratio. So if you think about it in terms of, if you're thinking about it in terms of Satoshis, then just note that if Bitcoin fails to get past this resistance point and starts coming back down the other way, then we're essentially just going to kick the can down the road. And if potentially speaking, theoretically, if the price does do something like this, where it comes back down and then ultimately rebounds, then it'll be later in 2020 that we might revisit this. That's obviously the bearish scenario, something like that. But the bullish scenario would clearly be getting above the 20-week, and then at some point we would likely retrace back down to the 20-week. And the move that we would want to see with Ethereum likely wouldn't occur until we're holding the 20-week as support. So we might see a move in Ether when we get, I think we will see a move when we get above the 20-week with respect to Bitcoin, but it's actually holding it as support. That's what we want to see. We want to see it hold it as support, which will then bring confidence back to altcoins. It'll bring confidence back to Ethereum. And then in that case, we would expect a move, potentially that really, sees a nice move up. And then obviously it'll retrace some, but we want to see this large move happen. Whether it happens in 2020, 2021, I don't know. But the 20-week moving average, I think, is the catalyst of Bitcoin to get Ethereum on this path. Okay, so I hope this video has been informative to everyone. Again, if you guys like the content, if you guys like the custom charts and everything, please subscribe to the channel. If you want more information, we do have the premium content for people who subscribe. You can find information about that in the description below. And also, please check out the Telegram channel if you want to come discuss. That'll wrap it up for this video, guys. I will see you guys next time. Bye.